Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures, and we're going to be talking about some Papsikels Minis today. You may have heard us talk about Papsikels stuff in the past. They are one of the first, if not the first, of the Patreon model makers that really went all in with the sci-fi cyberpunk stuff, which they're still at, I might add. But right now they've got a new crowdfunding campaign on My Mini Factory's Frontiers page for their Cyber Saga Episode 2, which is actually where this figure comes from. And while I may not have done the best removal of the teeny tiny supports there on her face, or did a good job of getting them all cleaned up in the first place, the lower half is actually a lot better. But the suit might look familiar. So actually what they're doing right now with the Cyber Saga Episode 2 is having a lot of models wearing these dark black suits for fighting off alien invasions. If that sounds familiar to you, it should. If you are a person of culture and read the Gantz manga, then you probably might recognize some of this stuff. And that's one of the things I've always loved about Papsikels. While they've taken a lot of ideas out of pop culture, they've absolutely run with it and made their own thing. And that's one of those things I really enjoy personally. Speaking of figures that might look familiar, so if you haven't seen it, obviously we'll have a link right there. You can take a look at it yourself. But one of the other cool things is Papsikels has been churning out models and actually opened up a $1 tier on their Patreon as well. And I think on their tribe. So just take a look at everything because we have all those links there for you. That's what they're there for. But I thought that was really cool. And one of the models, I don't know if it's this one specifically, but they've just been going all in on the mecha stuff, and I want to say there's some mecha like these landmate looking dudes in the stretch goals for Cyber Saga Episode 2, but there was one available as well with the $1 tier as well. So good sized models. I don't think they're as big as an actual tag or anything like that, but if you have need of mecha, robots, whatever you want to name them for your tabletop game of choice, they've got all kinds of fun options. Me personally, I could not help myself, and they're totally getting painted up like Appleseed landmates because that's what they deserve to be. If these are too boxy and bulky, I know they have some much more Infinity styled ones. Very olive looking. I'm sure it was influenced by the Marut. And speaking of influences, this one should look pretty familiar to people of a certain age, except with a bit of a Gundam V fin. And speaking of Gundams, I know that they did a full Eily Strike Pack version of the basic Papsikels drone mech, but then I saw this, and I don't know if everybody out there is really familiar with this, but I know the guy behind Papsikels has been on a bit of a mecha roll in terms of building model kits, and this is absolutely based on the Baiki from Motor Nuclear. And I've done some videos on Motor Nuclear's model kits, and actually I should have my Baiki coming in pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. But if you want a much more reasonably affordable version of one of these big giant mechs at a much more reasonable size, might be worth looking into. Continuing on with the topic of pop culture references, evil clowns on little tire rollers. If you are of a certain age and a fan of certain British sci-fi comic anthologies, you might recognize that style of fatty from a certain bringer of justice. Yeah, they're basically the fatties from Judge Dredd. Except then they went and did them up as various clowns, like Ronald McDonald, and the Violator, and Pennywise, because why not? We had mass-produced RoboCop 2s, of which there are actually a couple of different poses. And he is holding on to a piece of paper towel, okay. Like I didn't notice that before. One of the things that's worth mentioning, well, you can see lots of tiny little supports that need removal still. Papsikels have got to have some of the easiest, smoothest supports to remove that I have dealt with when it comes to 3D printing. I mean, they're like top tier for me, honestly and truly. Continuing on with my whole rant about pop culture references, they've had all kinds of assorted alien creatures in various shapes, sizes, and varieties. So if you ever wanted like dinosaur style ones, and there's like all kinds of queen, king, grandmother variations, all sorts of hive things. And if you really want to start messing up your universes and start having evil Sith Xenos, why not, right? Or if you want more grunt types, we've got armored stormtrooping Xenos. Because that's a thing now. I don't know why it needs to be. I'm like, this is awesome. They're just making their own crazy stuff. There's like big fat versions of, you know, the judges from 2000 AD. There's, you know, typical cyberpunk people, pilots for the mechs. I know this one's actually like supposed to be posed standing with it. I think it's supposed to be like an at-rest one, but you get the idea. So there's just a lot of fun to be had there. And considering they've got all sorts of stuff coming out on a monthly basis, and it's just like whatever indulgence they want to make, they're just continuing to roll on with all kinds of fun stuff. So if any of this sounds remotely interesting to you, or if you want, like, let's say, cyberpunk Chainsaw Man stuff, I know that's something that they were doing with their crowdfunding right now. By all means, take a look. Take a look at that Frontier page, the Tribe stuff. There's a lot of fun to be had. And honestly, like I said, Papsikels is one of the few that, on a regular basis, we have continued to support for a long time. So, hope you guys have as much fun with it as we did. And with that said, then, this has been High Lord Tamerlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye!